You have any idea the size of cojones you have to invite us up here and let us loose? I mean, most presenters will tell you that the quality and the value of their presentation correlates directly with their fee. Now, since we're here pro bono, please set your expectations accordingly.
I'd like to think that most of what's presented on the platform is fresh, original, and well-researched content intended to, provide insights and relevance.
Think again. It's at best regurgitated, rehashed, and repackaged nonsense, and at worst, dishonest and a dereliction of duty. I mean, if you're going to appropriate someone else's material and ideas, at least have the decency to fake originality.
My apologies if you thought this was going to be motivational.
Irritating is more like it. So feel free to leave at any time. But if you're prepared to have your cherished beliefs analyzed and your long-held assumptions scrutinized, then stick around. Let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Look, would it be fair to say that if, for example, you speak on sales, that you should have a pretty good sales track record? Mark, that if you speak on relationships, that you should probably be in a few good ones? And that if you speak on customer service, that you should probably return your phone calls, emails, and text messages?
What about people who speak about building wealth, but they can't afford to be here? People who speak on diversity, but have never stepped foot in another culture? And don't get me started about those who pontificate about mental health, but have never been visited by the black dogs of depression. Look, if you have not lived it, please don't talk about it.
Well, what about people who use quotations to support their arguments? I mean, last week I was listening to a high-profile speaker in the hospitality industry at a meeting industry council event. He spent the first 10, 12 minutes quoting other people. I mean, he had some fancy slides. I thought it was pretty entertaining, perhaps even relevant. No?
I can't stand it. I mean, I cannot stand it. Quoting is such a cheap way to feign knowledge, don't you think? I mean, I hate quotations so much that I'd like to share a few to illustrate my point.
Well, it's a tad hypocritical, and I think Donald Cooper's going to be pissed off, but go for it.
Take Winston Churchill, who said, "It is a good thing for an uneducated man to read books of quotations." Or this beauty from W. Somerset Maugham, "The ability to quote is a serviceable substitute for wit." And my personal favorite comes from Oscar Wilde. "Most people are other people. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions. Their lives, a mimicry. Their passions,
all right. Now you have heard a bit of what our next guest is about today in terms of his style, but he's a lot deeper than that. He's a lot more multifaceted, and we're going to hear all those facets today. Welcome, friends. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dune and Friends. And today we have a fantastic friend joining us all the way from Quebec, or is it Quebec or Quebec? So I think he might even have some French mixed in this conversation. Now, when he speaks French, I can understand some of it perhaps, but we'll see. Again, welcome. Hopefully you can hear us. We have Lorne Kelton joining us today. Hey, Lorne, can you still hear me in the green room there, my friend? Wonderful. It sounds like we're kind of ready to rock here with this hour and a bit. And frankly, if you don't have a meeting within an hour, and I don't have a meeting within an hour, we'll keep talking until we're tired, my friend. That's okay. So let me do a quick introduction, though, of Lorne. Make sure that our viewers know who we're hearing from for the next hour and a bit here. And so again, thank you for joining us today, Lorne. And let me just do a quick introduction here, and then we can be on our way. So for over 20 years, Lorne Kelton, the founder of ThinkShift Performance Solutions Inc, has been helping organizations develop their leadership, employee engagement, and critical thinking skills through a disciplined approach to managerial effectiveness. Lorne's clients have rallied on his knowledge and expertise to help leverage their human capital and support their strategic business objectives. Known for his no-nonsense approach to improving workplace productivity and interpersonal relationships, Lorne is a master motivator who brings intensity and passion and humor to all of his training and keynote presentations. Lorne's powerful combination of street smart and contrarian thinking leaves his audience looking at their personal and professional lives in a whole new light. A lifelong learner, Lorne holds a master's degree in adult learning and global change through University of British Columbia, a bachelor's degree in fine arts through Concordia University in Montreal, and is an honors graduate of the Canadian Securities Institute. Lorne is the author of the several books on personal and professional development, including iFrame, A Manager's Guide to Critically Balanced Thinking, Powerful Communication, Never Be Stuck for Words Again, and Unstoppable Confidence. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Lorne is the past president of the Vancouver chapter of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, past president of the CAPS Foundation, and currently serves as director on the CAPS National Board. He received association's presentation mastery award in 2004. Lorne's expertise in delivery methods include keynoting, workshops, and virtual online training, and one-on-one personalized presentation as engaging, empathic, and highly relevant. Friends, please help me in welcoming our wonderful guest today, Mr. Lorne Kelton. Woo! How are you doing today, my friend?
Wow, I can assure you that introduction is never used when I do anything on the platform. That is way too much information, but I thank you for sharing it.
This is online stuff. No, I'm just kidding. We can be a little bit different. And now the viewers knows a lot. So they're going to expect a lot from this conversation, my friend.
Sure. I look forward to it.
So tell us in your own words, kind of how you got here. Just share a bit of your journey, broad stroke a little bit.
Well, I think the journey through training, development, consulting, and platform speaking really is born out of a passion for the stage. In my early years, I did a lot of work in theater and professional theater, and then I migrated into a lot of film work, and I still do dabble in film and television when I have the opportunity or when time permits. And I think what happened there, Dune, was that it just bred a real desire to want to bring form, as I call it, with the content. I thought there's a lot of content out there. A lot of people hang their shingle up and say they're, and a lot of them are very, very good. But if you want to separate yourself out from the crowd, sometimes you have to bring something just a little bit different. So for me, it was trying to bring the performance element into it. And how could stage mechanics and how could physical movement, that kind of stuff, enhance the messages that are being shared out there. So that early stuff in the performing arts led to training development work, and then that led to keynoting. And the areas of leadership and critical thinking were particularly interesting because they just require a lot of intellectual curiosity, asking questions, dismantling assumptions about stuff, and trying to peel back the layers of the onion about what's going on in people's personal and professional lives. And that's how I got here, just putting that all together in one big ball and seeing where it'll go.
Cool. As you know, I hang around with a lot of musicians. I'm sure you are one as well. In fact, we'll talk a little bit about that. But, imagine what would music be if we didn't care about the performance side of it. If we think content was it, here's the word, here are the words, and here's, performance is how we really tap into the human experience, right? So I appreciate your comments on the kind of the experience that you want to create.
Yeah. Well, the music piece, we could take up this whole time just talking about music, the impact it has. And, Dune, that's another, we talk about, well, we can talk about anything, but when we talk about the performing arts, or we talk about, in my world, keynoting or consulting, presenting of any kind in front of a group of from 3 people to, 3,000.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed again and again and again, both within the community I'm involved with and the speaking community at large, is just how little
those external elements are used and brought into the performance, and music in particular. Like very, very few keynoters are using musical elements to enhance their presentations. They're not working with the AV people, for example, to say, hey, when I do this, let's play this piece, let's play this track. Or even as an introduction, something that can enhance, and it'd be great if you could do it live, but that gets a little complicated. But yeah, music, it's so, well, I don't need to tell you, but it is so inherently powerful at a subliminal level that it really can take the transmission of messages to a whole new level if you just play around with it a little bit. So
You bet. You bet. So again, based on your background with music and background with theater and background with training and development and all of that, it seems like you really have a passion as well as a lot of experience bringing those together in the work that you do.
yeah, I really try, and I try to experiment, and every year I try to do something just a little bit different that isn't necessarily going to drive my business or drive business at all, but go out on a limb, experiment, like that opening clip you played, which I know for anybody who's seeing it may not make any sense at all. That was an experiment, Dune. That was an attempt, strictly an attempt to marry live performance with a piece of video where the two characters, or as I call it, the ego alter ego, that was kind of the idea, was, have the video portion say all the things that I'd love to be able to say live, but really can't get away with in front of most audiences, just too provocative, too dangerous, etc. But he's on video, and that's him. That's not me. I'm live here, so don't blame me. That's him, right? So that was the idea, was to say, let's let this guy say the things that we can't always say, but that might reinforce the message, and then let the live guy, me on stage, counteract that and soothe the audience and let them know it's okay, you're still in your comfort zone and stuff. So that's maybe a small example of how to use performance, film, video, sound, to change things up a little bit, if that makes sense.
I love it. I love it. In fact, you know this. I've seen you doing a live version of this at our CAPS convention not many years ago, and you just got a standing ovation from the entire group, and it was a real special experience. It was a very unique experience, and it was fantastic, my friend, to experience that. So well done.
Well, thanks for that. One of the risks you take is, you do an experiment, but then you do the experiment in front of your peers.
Yes.
That was the tough decision to make. Do I do this in front of a corporate audience or an association, or do I do this in front and I said, you know what? Let's let it all hang out, and so I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. Some of our colleagues south of the border and even up here, but I know of one for sure. Mike Rayburn, right? Mike Rayburn, the keynote artist. He has done this keynote at NSA, National Speaker Association in the US there, where he had a hologram of himself back and forth. Now he's into guitar and guitar virtuosos and whatnot. So he did that with backing himself up on guitar in a live performance. Again, one of version of him is the holograms. So with a little bit more budget, maybe you can get into the hologram version, my friend.
Can I pick up on that, dude?
Absolutely.
One of the things that motivated me to try that experiment that you started with was Rayburn's hologram video.
Aha.
And my first thought originally when contemplating the idea was, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a hologram. So I reached out to Mike, who put me onto the company that did his holographic work, a company out of Los Angeles called Ventana, that I called, and I spoke to the CEO of that company, and I said, listen, you did this work with this guy. It's unbelievable. I want to do something, some blah, blah, blah. So I gave him the whole spiel, and he said, well, what's your budget? And I said, well, there really is none, but let me know, because it might be something that I can use beyond that. And he quickly educated me on the costs and the technical requirements for doing that kind of a holographic work. So in a nutshell, the challenge with the holograms, if you want to repeat the process, is that the technicians have to be on site. You have to have those AV people 2 to 3 of them on site with you. So if you went from this venue to this venue, they'd have to go with you.
Yeah.
You're talking $10,000 to $15,000 a pop, not to mention the initial $50,000 to $75,000 it costs to put that together. So, not to harp on the cost of it, but it is something that is remarkably powerful. And talking about music, I don't know if you're a '90s rap fan, Dune, if that's in your repertoire. Exciting thing, but I'll just admit up front that I'm a big fan of mid '90s gangster rap, the good stuff.
Yeah.
And one of those artists, who you probably know, is Tupac Shakur.
Mm.
They brought him back to life by taking a holographic image of one of his concerts, projecting it on stage where other fellow living artists were interacting with him in real time, live on stage. So all of that to say that I think the holographic opportunities are amazing once the costs become a little less prohibitive.
You know, which proven by past technology curve, you might be surprised. We might all be surprised just how fast that curve is in terms of becoming accessible for the typical presentations. You know, you never know. Remember not that long ago when projectors were prohibitively expensive? I remember, you know, a company would pay like $20,000 for a little projector, and it was big, well, not a little, it was big, and it was burning hot, and it was, you know, whatever. And these days they have projectors, you know, that you can have on your cell phone.
Right.
Now they're not as good, but nonetheless.
You're probably too young to remember acetates and overheads, Dune, but even back then, just getting the companies to provide you with an overhead was a big deal.
Yeah. You know, Lorne, you know you're old when you're calling a guy full of gray hair too young. But you're right.
I'm not sucking up. I like you too much. I wouldn't do that to you. But
You're right.
people don't. A lot of people don't remember those things.
Yeah. You know what it is? I remember those from I'm going to say from afar. I was not involved in actually doing them and whatnot, but I was aware of them. And there were people doing that I was aware of, but I wasn't in the firsthand kind of experience with that.
So my compliment was justified, you see?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Just having fun, my friend. You know, we can't have fun on conversations like this. So what are we going to do, right? We're going to resort to, I don't know, what would we do during COVID if we can't have fun?
Well, that's it. We are, you know, there's a lot of folks that are, I'm hearing a lot of the COVID fever, not the literal COVID fever, but the cabin fever associated with COVID, and people having, what's the term that's used? Digital fatigue. And I have to admit, I haven't hit that yet. I haven't hit the point where, you know, 3 to 4 Zoom calls or team calls a day for varying lengths of time is affecting my, you know, motivation or desire to put stuff out there. I think I've been lucky that way, maybe because I'm a little more hermetical than some folks, but I am hearing that it's just very challenging for a lot of people to sit behind a camera like this all day long and do their work. I haven't experienced that. What has been are you finding that at all? Or
before we go there, my friend, I must highlight a word. Every time I have interviews like this, I learn a new word, or at least recent times. You said hermetical? Hermetical?
Yeah, like hermetical. Yeah, I live a hermetical life.
I know what you mean, but I have not heard that word ever.
Well, if it's not in Webster's, it should be. So.
Hermetical, you know. I hear, you know, he or she's a hermit. I'm a hermit, but hermetical. Wow, that's cool, my friend. Variety is a spice of life, they say. So it's getting spicy in here.
It is.
So tell me your question again.
I was just curious if you are more in my kind of line of thinking that you're not experiencing digital fatigue the way many people are, or if in fact, because this show, I mean, obviously you have to be behind the camera and the mic, but in general, are you getting caught up in this digital fatigue phenomenon?
No, I don't get digital fatigue. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like all of us, we appreciate in-person, you know, experiences, and we treasure it, and it's precious, and it is just again, remind people how precious it really is. So I'm into all of that stuff. I love hugging, and hugging is always better in person. All those things. But at the same time, given where we're at, I find joy in this. I find joy in any kind of digital format. For example, last night, a co-host and myself ran a weekly blues jam. 10 players or whatever play for the audience in the green room, in the Zoom kind of environment, and we broadcast it out on Facebook and whatnot. And I find it enjoyable. I mean, it always takes work, just like anything, and it does take work and energy, and in that sense, it's a commitment. But while you're doing that, I certainly enjoy my time doing that. I'm enjoying my time doing this, and so the short answer is no, I haven't reached any digital fatigue yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Yeah. I think it's just a natural extension, and I think the good news is it's really compelling a lot of people to look at how they can transit if they're doing output, even on the music front. If I can just digress back to music for a sec, Dune, I'm a big fan of of dozens and dozens of groups, but there's been a lot of big name bands doing stuff from home concurrently with their fellow band members. Like I was watching last week a couple of songs by the Doobie Brothers. I don't know if you remember the Doobie Brothers, but one of my favorite bands from way back. And they just last month released 2 or 3 songs, their classic songs, where they performed it live from 4 different homes. Like they were all each in their own home. They obviously pre-recorded it. I don't believe it was live, but they did it live at the time and then mixed it together and put it out there, and they're on YouTube. And they're not alone. There's dozens of bands doing that. Tears for Fears has been doing that, bringing in their family members, sitting in the background. And I think it's unbelievable. And I just think it's a real impetus for us to look at what could we be doing differently besides just doing our talks and our shows. What else can we bring to the medium that'll help make it a little bit more interactive and a little bit more visceral? And I think there's ways to do that, like what you're doing here.
Absolutely.
You're using technology in a very creative way here. You're using this platform in ways that not that many people are doing. You really are. And it makes a difference.
It's funny because here's how I look at it. And this is my view of life for a long, long time. If you look at life in a certain way, things seem to be very different. If you look at life in a different way, an alternate way, things seem to be very the same or similar. Let me expand. So some people would look at this and say, this is a bit different what we're doing here. During COVID, we're doing all this, kind of live stuff and this and that and the other thing. That's one way of looking at it. It's different. But another way of looking at it is actually it's the same as many things that has gone before us. For example, how did we watch Oprah Winfrey or David Letterman or hockey or whatever? It's been around for ages, the idea of kind of broadcasting to the mass, but it was very cost prohibitive to do. So technology allowed the common man like myself, common person like myself and you. I don't know if you're common. Maybe you're a bit more special than I am, Lorne. But the common guy like me could grab a technology and try to do a hacky version of a live thing. But I know, just like kids start to crawl, I know over the long run they'll learn how to walk. I know over the long run they'll learn how to run. Over the long run they might even run for the Olympics. But you don't start with the Olympics. You start with committing to movement, committing to crawling. So I'm crawling, and I'm having fun crawling. And a running will come, but we're crawling.
Well, I think you're well past the crawling stage. I think you're certainly at the sprint, if not running.
Well, thank you for your encouragement, my friend. So I'm going to bring up some photos. Let's talk about some of your experiences, okay? Some experiences, and through photos, that helps us kind of understand a little bit about your story and your journey, and as importantly, the insights that you can share with our viewers through sharing those stories. So in no particular order, I'm just going to pull up some random photos, and you're going to talk about it in ways that I have even no knowledge of how you're going to tackle that. But we're going to do that. I'm going to have a bit of fun here.
It's going to be a surprise for me too. So let's see.
Exactly. I
don't know what you've done.
This is a surprise segment. Will it float? No, that David Letterman will come back after me if I do that. Let's see here.
We'll fix it in post-production. Oh my! Oh, look at
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yes, this
yeah,
would have been two of our common. Oh, they've disappeared, but
yeah,
two of
yeah.
our common friends. I believe that was Michelle. Michelle Ray and Michelle Cedarberg. Two Michelles that we both know, Dune, very well.
Absolutely.
And actually, the lady on my right, left in the photo but right in person, Michelle Cedar, she's going to be the 2022 national president of our association. Really
Yeah,
looking forward
a
to that.
fearless leader,
A fearless
energetic.
leader.
She's the Energizer Bunny.
She is, and I'm actually working with her now on a project for CAPS and enjoying that. And Michelle Ray, I've known forever. She was actually on the board of directors when I was in Vancouver. When I was living in Vancouver for just over 10 years, and was on the local board. Michelle on my left was on the board, and we drove an awful lot of initiatives. So two ladies I'm very, very fond of.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank
Do you
you.
have a story behind these ladies that you want to share that somewhat safe to share on the air, my friend? Is there a funny story? Is there an interesting story?
Oh, uh,
We'll come
well,
back to it if you can't think of one right away.
well, no, if it's, I don't, I do, but I don't know that it's fit for public consumption.
Okay, well, we'll move on. There you go.
Oh my, another past president of CAPS National, that would be Suzanne Stevens, still very much present in the association. Another friend of both of ours, Dune.
You bet.
And Suzanne's been very active. And what I love about Suzanne is the philanthropic work she does
Yeah.
with young women in Africa and elsewhere. She has really put together quite a foundation for the development, both physical, mental, emotional, of young women in some really key parts of the world. So very, very proud of having been able to work with her
Right.
over the years.
Again, as we spin through these photos, we'll probably underscore the fact that CAPS has amazing people in all walks of life who are at the point in their life where they want to contribute in a different way
Yes.
to speaking and training, whatever happens.
That's a very good truth. Oh my goodness, you know who this is?
Absolutely, I know who this is. He has been linked to Jurassic Park.
Yes, he has. He was closing keynoter at our, I believe, the Halifax convention. And here's the story I have for you. There is when he came off the stage at the end of the evening. It was leading into the president's ball, and there was no chair allocated for him at the head table that I had the privilege of sitting at. So we found a chair for him. He sat down, and I proceeded to spend the next 2 hours having a personal conversation that had absolutely nothing to do with the speaking profession, with stage mechanics, with anything other than his personal life, his religious journey, his spiritual journey, his family journey. And I'll tell you, for me, I shouldn't say it this way, but it was the absolute highlight of the convention for me, getting to peel back the layers of this guy's remarkable personal story.
Yeah, yeah. Did you happen to tell us his name?
No, I didn't, because I'm having a, I was leaving that to you.
That's Mr. Hewitt.
That's right, Jason Hewitt, who I believe was also, I'm not sure if he was an NSA president, but very, very active in NSA.
Yeah, yeah. No, he is. He has a heart of gold and well respected for his craft and well respected for his. I'm going to say character.
Yes, and we were talking earlier, Dune, about using technology in creative ways as a result of being forced to by COVID. If you were to go online and check out his brand new demo reel that's based on virtual, it's crazy what he's done at his house. I don't. Have you seen that?
I've seen it. Absolutely.
It's crazy. I mean, he's put a full production studio into 4 different locations with.
Yeah. For our viewers who are not aware, so Jason Hewitt is really a long history, decades of really very successful performer. Kind of fun and music and singing and the whole act. That's just like Las Vegas kind of level, right? That kind of showmanship. And
Right
then
up
recently, he really focused more on the keynote speaking, and that transition has been very well executed. And even with COVID here, he's adjusting. And as you've mentioned, so quite a model to kind of look at.
Yeah, and a real family guy too. I mean, he involves his wife and his kids. Well, there's a nice segue into kids. There's my two. That's Chloe on the left and my son Logan on the right. I'm not sure why this one's up here. Maybe just to let you know that I do have family and they mean absolutely everything to me. And I think as I've gotten older, they've become the center of my universe. And I think every decision I make professionally now doesn't get made until I've weighed it against any impacts it may have on family. So I'm just thoroughly in love with both of them. This is a little bit older picture. Chloe on the left there, she's now 21.
That's a little bit old.
And she just started last month. She just started medical school here at McGill in Montreal, and so she's been working really, really hard through this pandemic to adjust to new ways. But she'll be one of our future caregivers, and really looking forward to that. And Logan there, the mischievous one, he is. I think he'll be a professional gamer.
Oh, cool.
There you go. A more recent picture of Chloe, but
yeah, very
well,
cool.
Thanks for showing these. I didn't realize I'd have the family up there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's me looking totally dejected live because I'm being scolded by the video version of myself.
I was sitting just a few feet away to the left there by the caps. Now I don't want to say podium because that would be wrong. I want to say lectern.
You do.
We know better, don't we? Just
You
kidding.
do. You do. Oh, look at that. Michelle again. And on my right there, that's Nathalie Plamondon from BC, who is actually just joining, just got elected to the National Board of Directors. And talk about Energizer buddies, Dune. I think she's again a friend of both of ours.
Yes. And yeah.
And it was really neat because at that, no, that's okay. I was just going to say what she did. She went around with her phone.
Yeah.
And she took snippets of everybody's keynote, including mine. And she was running up to me saying, "Look, I captured some video footage. You've got to see this. Look at this. You've got to work." Just always giving.
You and I probably, and many of our speakers in our association, probably see ourselves as a bit of a social butterfly, but we're no social butterfly when next to Nathalie, right?
That is very true. That is very true.
Yeah.
No amount of prep.
She takes that and crank it up a few notches.
There you go. Yeah, that's just bringing the family together again, Dune. I think if we went through all of your guests that you've had, all of your friends and family, everybody will always treasure, or most people will, not everybody, not everybody, but most people do treasure the family. And again, maybe that's a function of age a little bit, but it really becomes all that matters at a certain point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And by the way, my wife Regina in that picture, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary last month.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah.
We're at 25th. We're at 25th, so we're 5 years behind you guys.
Oh, congrats back at you, buddy.
Yeah, cool.
It's amazing.
Beautiful colors. I love the everything. As if they coordinated their dresses with the room there, my friend.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like.
What else you got?
I got this.
Yeah, that's a little further back, but that's another one of our national. My goodness, you found some good ones here, Dune. That is Tony Newman.
Let me get a larger version of that up. Okay, so give me a second, and I will correct that here, my friend.
No problem.
Yeah. Keep on talking. Go
to a photo album. This is very different, and I like that. I like the relaxed nature you bring to this.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, tell us about this photo that I'm bringing back here, my friend.
Well, that's Tony. Like I said, a past president and a very, very close friend of mine, who in that picture was presenting me with an award for contribution to the national board of CAPS. we're talking a lot about CAPS because we're talking a lot about the speaking side of what we do. And this association is, Canada's preeminent association for people who want to monetize the spoken word. And getting that award from Tony was extra special, partly because we're both native Quebecers and we're good friends, but also because as national president, she really ushered in an era of change. And it was something that I was happy to be a part of.
Yeah, I was going to say as well. You see all the band instruments and amps. We always have fun at those CAPS convention as well, don't we? In terms of not only all the other aspects of it, but we also inject some good entertainment.
And if memory serves, if that was later on that evening when that band went live, let's give credit where credit is due. You would have been in that band, correct?
This is another stage setup, but yeah, the band that I've been in, we did about 5 years at convention there, 5 different years, where again speakers playing, entertaining, and playing for speakers fellow speakers at the convention. But that was fun as well.
Yeah.
Oh boy, Mr. Canada's sales professional, Canada sales expert himself there.
Yeah, I think his official moniker is Canada's sales coach.
That's right. That's coach. Yeah, absolutely.
And Tom Stoyan, for those who are not aware, HOF Hall of Fame. He passed through Montreal middle of last year, I guess. He came through town, and we had a chance to have a really amazing dinner together and pick each other's brains and that kind of stuff. And what was interesting was the stuff he was talking about, Dune, was so interesting. I asked his permission to take my my cell phone and record it, and it turned into a 2-hour discussion about sales and related stuff. And I edited the sound recordings, and I put them online for the CAPS chapters who wanted a free inside take on what it takes to sell effectively. And so that was a real treat.
Yeah.
And by the way, just as a piece of trivia, Dune, Tom was the very, very first CAPS member to be inducted into the CAPS Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
In 1995, so 25 years ago this year, he launched the whole thing. So
yeah,
there you go.
First time I met Tom in 2010 in Montreal, his first thing, shortly after being introduced, is he says, "So Dune, how can I help you?" That's Tom right there.
Touche. Absolutely. Oh, another family picture. We can go through that. Yep.
Did you do some comedy, my friend? Were you a comedian at some point?
Where did you find this? Yes. No, I wasn't. But this is in New York City at one of the hundreds of clubs they have. They're one of the better-known comedy clubs called the Comic Strip, where I got a chance to participate in an amateur night. I did some improv stuff. So they wouldn't allow it to be recorded, like film, for some reason. Like you couldn't, even on your phone. I don't know why, but so all I got out of it was a picture. But that was fear-inducing to a great extent, but a lot of fun.
Now I'm going to induce some fear into the picture here, my friend. Are you ready for some fear kind of surfacing up here?
Go for it, buddy. It hasn't stopped you thus far.
I'm going to ask you to, on demand, just at the drop of a hat here, tell us a joke, a story, a funny story, something that you would do on a stage that is suitable for, kind of public audience here. Kids might be tuning in and whatever have you.
My stuff does get a little colorful on the language side for this kind of environment. So I'll do that for you before we wrap up. But if we can,
you bet.
Just to make sure, because I know you're recording, and I don't want to jeopardize my opportunities for employment here. So I'll come back with a story for you. Sure.
You bet. Wonderful.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay. This was a film shoot, Dune. This is when time allows, I spend as much time as I can working in either film or TV work, and this is a still shot from a thriller series that we're working on called The Target. It's directed by a very good friend of mine who's in the background outside the car window next to the camera there. And I play a very violent mob boss trying to coerce a Saudi national to transport toxic waste from New York to Saudi Arabia. And it takes place in New York, Saudi Arabia, Montreal, and that was a lot of fun. So we're in the midst of trying to sell this. So we've shot this pilot. It's an hour long, and we're working on trying to secure some distribution to get the remaining 12 episodes made.
Cool. So let me just underscore that for our viewers here. So in addition to everything that you have done and whatnot with your various careers, you also got into essentially, now you said a series of 12. So this would be, I'm going to say, Hollywood-ish acting in terms of the, how do you compare it? Is there a series like that we would know that's sort of a dozen kind of episodes, my friend, that we can relate to?
Yeah, well, most of the stuff that depending, because the streaming's, I'll try not to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but nowadays where the real buying takes place is with what's called the video on demand services,
right.
the Primes, the Netflixes, and those are the big players, but there's dozens and dozens of smaller players in the streaming space internationally. And this project is an example of a project that's destined for what's called the MENA region, the Middle Eastern North African market. And that's because for reasons that I won't go into, but it's plot driven and it's who the main characters are, et cetera, that are from that part of the world. So there are streaming services over there, and they buy things in the 13 episode category. It's like Seinfeld and a lot of the shows that used to do 22 or 13 episodes per season. So we've written out season 1, we've shot the pilot. Now the idea is to get the financing in place to shoot the remaining season 1 episodes that are scripted but not filmed yet.
Very cool.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but
absolutely. You are playing with the future, my friend. You're not bound or tied by the past. You are now into future mode of live streaming and international presence. Rather than having to, in the old days, you might kind of focus locally first before you go international.
Well,
that's so yesterday.
This stuff that I like to do once in a while is really coming full circle with the stuff I talked about earlier. When you start in the performing arts and then migrate out into, because you got to make a living, you got to put food on the table at some point.
Yeah.
So you can't live in an imaginary world all the time.
Yeah.
So when I get a chance to do this kind of work, it's kind of going back to the theater film days and closing that loop a little bit, if that makes sense.
Which I'm going to pause on that. I'm going to ask you to extract a piece of insight that you gained from, working in, again, theaters and whatnot, acting theaters for many years. What's one sort of pearls of wisdom you can share with our viewers that you've learned through that journey, my friend, that might be applicable to other aspects of life as well?
That's a great question. I think the single biggest takeaway I have about where the film and theater worlds play a really big role is recognizing that who we are as individuals is a function of a lot more than what we strictly say and what we physically do. It's a combination of all of our senses, and those senses are heavily underutilized in so much of the work we do. So, for example, if I'm doing consulting work with senior executives at a mining company in Brazil, for example, just to pull a project out of the air, and the goal of that project is to work with these senior executives because they're running into roadblocks with their leadership behaviors on the job with all the people that report to them. So you may have a mid-level or a senior executive who's responsible for 150, 200 people, who's running into performance issues personally, professionally, and with his teams. And your job, or my job, if I'm hired on a project to consult with this organization, is to help him or her modify those behaviors so that they're more productive, better decision makers, better for the company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I mention that because as I work with those people and peel back the layers of their personal onions, you realize that the senses that they're not utilizing are often the ones that are standing in the way. Their ability to communicate effectively, their ability to understand empathy, to understand what is going on in the lives of the people that they're reporting to. And most importantly, to look in the mirror and actually understand what it is that they're doing that is negatively impacting these other people and their work. And in the theater and in film, that's all we do. The idea is to get a point across, to build a relationship with another character, to achieve an intended outcome of some sort by utilizing all your senses. What you say, how you say it, how you touch, well, nowadays not as much touch, etc. So the biggest takeaway for me is always, what are the elements of performance that can be brought to bear in a real world situation? And surprisingly, there are a lot of them. And as people start to reflect on their own actions and they realize, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm not doing, they can draw on that. Now, I need to qualify that, because some people would say, well, isn't that really inauthentic? Doesn't that make it disingenuous if you're, putting on a facade or a mask, or, feigning some behavior to achieve? Not if it's something that you're blind to, and not if it is something that is inherent in your nature that you're simply not doing. And that's why you'll pick an actor that you like. I'll put you on the spot. Name me a well-known actor who you really enjoy and who you would go out of your way to see their show or their movie because they're in it. Is there somebody that comes to mind?
Yeah, let's just Michael J. Fox. Let's just go with that.
Okay, Michael J. Fox. He's made some good movies, and some movies that maybe some would say were, not so great. But what is it? What is it that draws you to that character? And
well,
I won't put you on the spot by asking.
For me, it's the I don't know. It's youthful. So that's one of the thing. When I watch his thing, I just feel young at heart.
And I think you're absolutely right. Plus, he's Canadian. Yay.
He's a Canadian.
I think the point that I'm, trying to, the needle that I'm trying to thread with asking you that question is, if you look at, if people took the time to look at, let's say, a well-known actress, whose performances they really like, in most instances, they will notice that the performance is very similar role to role to role. The narratives change, the context change, and yes, there are some examples of, like a Christian Bale that completely goes out of character. But for the most part, most characters are recognizable because there's a certain consistency to them, like an Al Pacino, for example. If you met Al Pacino in person, or Michael J. Fox, and you had dinner with them, how different do you think their core values and core personalities would be from the characters you've seen on screen?
Who knows?
Now you might say, well, they're very different, they're very divergent. I would challenge you on that, and I would say that the vast majority of those qualities that you enjoy are the same ones you would see and recognize in them in person. So the whole roundabout point I'm trying to make, Dune, is simply that we all possess these character traits that are not disingenuous, that are not inauthentic, but that we simply don't use because we haven't tapped into them. And so a lot of the work I do with these senior people who care not at all about performing arts targets those specific behaviors that will undo and unblock, whatever the obstacle is that's in front of them. And that's what I like to do with these performances. There's something when I get cast for stuff, it's in a very narrow range of roles. It tends to be something very intense. There's usually an intellectual curiosity about them. There's usually a lot of critical thinking that goes into even if they're bad guys like this guy, there's a lot of critical thinking that before he does a bad thing, he's really looking at all the angles, dissecting it down. So I think that's very true to my nature, and that's why I think I could pull a role like that off.
Yeah.
So, but if he gave me something else to do, it wouldn't work. That's where it becomes inauthentic.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense to me. Now, wow, look at
Oh
that.
my goodness.
I recognize this gentleman. Is he who I think he is?
Well, he may or may not be who you think he is. His name is Ahmed El Bayad. He's a world-renowned illusionist. He is the David Copperfield, not the literary David Copperfield, the illusionist David Copperfield. He is the equivalent of David Copperfield in the Middle East. He hails from Saudi Arabia, where we did a lot of the shooting, and he is well known in Dubai, et cetera, et cetera. So he was the lead character, the lead guy that I had to manipulate in that role, and that was just a chance for us to converse. Anyway, he's got about 500 videos on YouTube, and he has about a 4 or 5 million person following. So
cool.
Yeah.
I recognize this scene, my friend. I recognize this scene. This is Vancouver Bayshore, Western Bayshore Hotel.
Wow, good guess, but you're off by about 5,000 kilometers.
Okay. 5,000 kilometers between friends, right?
This is in Cannes, France, last year, after we shot the pilot that I was just showing you pictures of, at the Cannes, it's called MIPCOM, the Marché International Professionnel pour la Télévision. So it's the largest international trade show dedicated to the buying and selling of television programs. And so I went there with my director at his request to set up meetings, hobnob, show the trailer, try and get a deal memo. And so we've still got embers in the fire, but that's a very long but it was my first time in Cannes. And
yeah. Well, you know, did you say this was in France somewhere, right?
Yeah, this is in the south of France, not too far, about an hour away from Monaco.
Right.
On the south.
Beautiful. Because it is in France somewhere, this is a great time for me to ask you to do this, my friend. This is going to be a surprise. Are you ready for another surprise?
Okay, sure. Go for it.
Tell us a quick pearls of wisdom or a story or an insight, but do it in French, my friend. Do it in French.
Ah bon? Avec plaisir, Dune. Je dirais que tous les aspects de notre caractère ont un rôle à jouer durant nos travaux. Que ce soit sur le stage, que ce soit dans une salle de conférence, que ce soit dans une compagnie qui a une dizaine d'employés, 10 000 employés. Il y a toujours une façon d'utiliser nos atouts professionnels, nos atouts personnels, pour assurer qu'il y a des changements de comportement auprès de tous les employés en utilisant nos atouts avec lesquels nous sommes les bénéficiaires. Alors, ça, c'est les pearls of wisdom que je vais partager avec tout le monde. I hope that was okay.
Thank you, my friend. Now, I am just now reminded, I'm sure that was an awesome message. I'm now reminded that if you don't use it, you lose it. Because my second language was French, not English. English was actually my third language. You know, when I was in grade 6, I was given, three choices. What is it? I could learn English, I could learn French, I can learn Russian. I said, well, I won't be taking Russian for whatever reason. And I say to myself, why would I ever need to know how to speak English? So I chose French. And so French was my second language. But of course, as I listen to you, I realize I lose all of that. And I even took French here in Canada for 5-7 years or whatever that was. But clearly, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Well, that's true. And, French is a very, very difficult language. It's not as difficult as Arabic or as Chinese, for example, but it is difficult. I think all the Romance languages like French and Spanish and Portuguese, for example, and Italian are difficult when it comes to certain aspects because you have things in those languages that you don't have in English. You don't have the masculine and the feminine, for example.
Yeah.
You don't conjugate the verbs the same way. So,
yeah.
You're right. You use it or lose it. I used to do a lot of work in French. When I was first starting out in training and development, I did a lot of workshops in French, and I haven't done workshops in French in a long, long time. I still do some keynote type presentations in French. Mm-hmm. And even within CAPS, the association that you and I are a part of, we have almost 14% of our membership is French speaking. Mm-hmm. Not that they necessarily work in French, but hey, who's that guy?
Who's that guy?
So I think you'll see an increased emphasis on French in the association as well, in terms of the communication, website, that kind of stuff. Okay. Looking a little constipated there, but yeah, that's.
You look like somebody I know who's a blues singer. That face there just sort of just connected the dots for me in just a moment there. But cool. Now, obviously, you do you remember? Was it speaking or was it acting? This particular photo.
No, this is a keynote. This is a this is a keynote, definitely, and it was probably on the topic of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. I don't do a keynote called hypocrisy, but I like to call out hypocrisy a lot when I see it. So that was probably one of those one of those moments. Yeah. But you see, I do have a human side.
You see, this is the opposite of hypocrisy. Animals like dogs, they are who they are.
That's the hairless Portuguese water dog there.
Did you say hairless?
Well, he's got fur, but if you saw the rest of the body, there's nothing there. It's all skin. Nice. It's like almost like a Sphinx cat, but in dog form. The only hair he has is on his face. Cool. Oh, look at that. That's the curtain call for a play called Rehearsal for Murder. And I'm kind of in the back left there. And just to show, again, that getting involved with, and it's something I encourage everybody to do. I don't care what line of work you're in. I encourage everybody to, excuse me, audition for something or just go to an improv night somewhere or anything, just for the experience of shedding your skin for a couple of hours. Yeah. And doing a play is a little bit more of a commitment, but wow, the people you meet, and everybody here, none of the people in this picture acts professionally for a living, other than the guy sitting in the chair who's a director, but everybody else does other stuff. So get out there. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Wow, these are more people, more friends of ours, Dune.
Absolutely.
There's Tony again, and on my right, Stephanie Staples. Another Energizer bunny. Yes. Someone else who I've had the pleasure of knowing for years in CAPS and who I consider a very good friend. Yeah. And she is getting into music big time lately with there you Luke. Go. Yeah, with Luke. Yes. You talk about stepping out of your comfort zone. I saw her present, as you probably did as well, when she introduced her friend Uke and took out her ukulele, and man, and I'll tell you, she was sweating bullets prior to doing that. Because she's on to guitars now. She's on to guitars now and writing a lot of songs and performing them. Excellent. Yeah. Wow. You've come up with some good ones, bud. Yeah. So that's what we got so far, my friend. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch gear, and we're going to come back to some other photos in just a few moments here. And so switching gear. Now, I believe you don't have a client meeting. You have to be in 2 minutes, do you? No. 3 minutes. We'll keep on yakking, my friend. We'll keep on yakking if it's okay with you. I will. All right. So tell us, my friend, in terms of, I'm going to tell us more about your music thing. You said we can talk a whole lot about music. Now I'm going to just go there. Let's go there. Tell us about your musical background. Do you play instruments? Do you sing? Have you been famous in some other countries that we're not aware of? Tell us more, my friend. This is where you get the big disappointment. No, I played for years. I played the baritone horn, which isn't the sexiest of instruments, but it was my introduction into reading music, because so many of the musicians that I admire today still don't read sheet music. Like Mark Knopfler, and who's one of my favorite guitarists, for example. I could name you a number of people who are, or Steve Vai, or Joe Bonamassa. I don't know if you're a Joe Bonamassa fan. Yeah. But a lot of these guys who picked it up at not even an early age, who were great influences on my desire to want to incorporate. So I've tried a few things. I picked up the guitar. I have a Les Paul over there somewhere. I'm left-handed, so I had to have it strung for a lefty. And I took lessons with a local blues guitarist for a couple of years. Work got in the way, so I wasn't able to continue with that. Then I got myself a drum kit, and I tried that for a year. And one of my goals was to do, or it still is to do, a keynote playing the drums,
Nice.
where I talk live while playing the drums, a little bit like the experimental stuff from earlier, but bringing musical components into it. So no, I don't sing and I don't play professionally, but what I do is incorporate music in a big way into what I do, whether it's a keynote, whether it's a workshop. The only time I can't bring music into my work is if it's consulting type work.
Yeah.
But other than that, my 2-day leadership program, for example, incorporates a lot of music, and it incorporates a lot of video to supplement and shake things up a bit.
Yeah. So anything that requires a heavy kind of personal development thing, or heavy inspirational kind of components, music is really powerful for that, right?
Well, it really is. And I know that most people who would hear this would agree. It's kind of, you don't even have to sell it on anybody. I think everybody knows. They may not be able to put a word on it or define it that well, but just the impact it has on mood alone is so pervasive. And that's another reason why Dune, I'm a little bit surprised why it isn't used a little bit more. And I think a lot of folks, when they're doing, and I don't mean somebody putting on the radio at work, I'm talking if they're doing your kind of work, my kind of work, or anywhere where you're exposed to a group of people, why are we not using it more? You know, that's a rhetorical question, but I can't do a day-long piece without bringing music into it, period.
Hey, I'm going to surprise you again. Is it okay? Or are you done with, do you have surprise fatigue already, my friend?
No, dude, coming from you, I would expect nothing less.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in your books and I'm going to spin through them, but I don't want you to talk about them just yet. While I'm spinning through your books, I want you to go, I'll take you off camera. I want you to go and grab your Les Paul, your left-handed Les Paul, come back and hold on to it as if you're rocking out, because you know some of the people who see you on screen, my friend, may not have seen that side of you with the Les Paul in hand. So
okay. I'm not plugging it in, but I'll grab it for you.
You can grab it. If you want to plug it in, feel free, but you definitely grab it, and we're going to pose. So ready? Just give me a second here. I'm going to bring in the books here. Yeah, go ahead. Hold on. Okay, yeah. All right. So we're just having fun here, folks. And so let me just maybe do this. There we go. Let's kind of go that. So while we're waiting for Lorne to come back with his Les Paul, we will enjoy some of these things here that he's been working on over the decades. I see a Les Paul coming into the picture. I see him just strapping it on and securing it. And we're gonna, I'm gonna organize it so that, I think we're kind of good here. Ready, my friend? I'm going to show you to the viewers here and give us your rock out pose. There you go. Look at that. Hold on. Let me.
My left-handed baby.
Yeah. So wow. What kind of amp do you run it through, my friend?
I run it through a very old little Marshall. I think it's a 50 water. It's a small little thing. And my son is now, who is also left-handed. He's a true lefty. I'm a lefty for playing this, and I'm a lefty for writing, but I do everything else right-handed except that.
Oh,
but
really?
My son is a true lefty, and he's been picking this up and strumming. And if he starts taking it seriously, we'll get him some lessons. But yeah, I did this for a couple of years, and I had to let it go. But you know what? That's a bit of an excuse, Dune, and I don't tend to make excuses, but I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of having let the passion of the learning take second place to other stuff that got in the way. And maybe you have some sage advice for me about what I have to do to plug this back in and get back to where I was so that I can play with you at some point in the near future.
My thought is this. I must tell you, you might know this, you might not, but 11 years I did not touch guitars or anything for 11 years. Now, I had a lot of gear, and I still do have a lot of gear. And for 11 years, they were just sitting in the basement, untouched. I was doing, again, launched my business and young family and all that. So I understand, my friend, been there, done that. But when I turned 40, 41 to be exact, when I turned 41 a while ago, I got back to playing music. And people will tell you that I'm probably making up for a lot, lost time, because I played in several bands, professionally, and we have lots of shows as well. And so bottom line is, there's seasons of life, I guess. And I'm in the season where music is going to claim some of my time, and rightly so. And I'm having fun with it.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'll ask you to needle me a little bit. Send me the occasional little push, because I have a feeling it'll be a little bit like a bicycle, where a few weeks in, a lot of it'll come back. But that's my Les Paul Epiphone lefty.
Very cool, my friend.
How few lefties there are. Out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know some friends who are lefties, and I just can't appreciate their journey to the musical instrument stores where there's very few lefties there to pick from, right? It's just the whole kind of dynamic of that, right? Yeah. Now, you've written how many books, my friend, so far?
Well, I'd say probably six or seven. A few of the ones you're putting up there are nice, short books. A lot of them are ebook style and course oriented. One of the things that is very important to me when I do professional work is to always keep the focus on the end result. And I know that everybody might say something similar, but I don't tend to take engagements if I don't have some control over how the learnings are going to be put into practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these books, whether they're long or they're short, are real quick hits of the behavioral changes that are very, very specific, that try to answer questions. There's no fluff, nothing airy-fairy about them. And a lot of them that you're showing here actually are on the motivational side of what I do, that falls more into the behavioral leadership side of things. The main book there, well, not the main one, the one that's on critical thinking called iFrame, well, there's the audio version of it. That's the one that has really been, that one right there is the one that's been the biggest source of growth for me, because that was written to be a blueprint for a workshop. That's all it was really meant to be. But it ended up becoming, and it, and like so many people who print a book, you think it's going to fly off the shelf, or it's going to fly off of Amazon or anywhere else. And guess what? They don't do that. They sit, like they did in my case, in boxes in your garage for months at a time, because you thought there was an audience for it, and there wasn't yet. And one thing I learned through the writing process or the marketing process of the book is that sometimes the audience for your material is not who you thought it would be initially. So I thought that corporate managers, supervisors would really benefit from a 6-step process that really helps you improve your critical thinking to make better decisions. That was the thinking. And hardly anybody bought it. But in academia, at the university level, when it was introduced as part of an MBA program out west at Simon Fraser University to begin with, for example, they saw it as an opportunity to incorporate it as part of a capstone statement within their MBA program. So they had their full program, and as a part of that, in one of the modules, the book became required reading. So we were able to sell 30, 40 copies per semester, even if they didn't want to buy it. So
yeah, there you go. The key is make it required.
And that's, and that was purely by happenstance. There was no design around that. It was a relationship was forged. A meeting took place. Oh, okay, I read your thing. It's got some interesting stuff in it. We and then the BC Justice Institute picked it up for a project they were working on, so that moved a few more copies. So I think we have only about 80 copies left, so and it's due for an update. But that's where this stuff fits in. It's books in the nonfiction world, in the self-help category. Books really serve as leverage for other things. They rarely become a tool unto themselves in terms of driving your business, as you're probably well aware.
You bet.
But if done well, the credibility factor, the ability to put something tangible in front of people and say, here it is, does make a big difference. But I would do it a little bit differently next time. But and doing the audio piece now, whether it's on the CD, which is nobody buys the CD, it's all by downloads now, is also huge, especially now that Audible is owned by Amazon. It has been for a few years. I encourage anybody to get their stuff out there, get it on your website if that's what you're into, make your material available, and don't expect to make money on that material, but expect it to serve as a catalyst for discussions like you and I are having today, a very friendly, casual conversation about how can I improve the pain you're going through right now.
Allows people to get into your head a little bit and understand, your perspectives and your experiences. Again, it's a connection tool, right? It allows you to connect with people, and who knows what happened when there's connections made.
Yeah, and just another thing. This may sound like a negative, but it's actually a positive. When myself and my colleague wrote that first book on critical thinking, we did like everybody does. We sent out query letters and we sent out drafts. Everybody turned it down until one day, one of the business publishers, Wiley, which you probably know the name, is they're really big into they expressed interest, and it went through several rounds, and we got very close to doing a deal with them. But one of the editors in one of their divisions, because the way those companies work is they'll have an editor for their business self-help division, but before it gets green-lighted for publication, they bring all the editors in, and everybody gets a vote, and they weigh in on it collectively. And we had an editor or two not our editors, but at Wiley that didn't like it at all. I mean, they vetoed it, and so we ended up having to do it on our own. And the reason they gave was that they felt that the parables, because it's a very parable-oriented story, the way of sharing critical thinking, they said, too many parables on the market, parables are on the way out, we're looking for it, and he wasn't even in the business division. So I guess my point is, you got to be ready for the rejection, and that's fine. The good news is there's lots of tools, as everybody knows, to do it on your own at a very, very low cost, especially if you do it on demand. We did a self-publishing route and then printed it at X number of copies. If I were to do it again, I would do the same thing up to that point, but not print it. I would put it with Amazon, for example, but on the on-demand service where no books are actually published until one gets ordered. And when somebody orders it, the machine prints it. So the royalties are a little less in that regard, but from an efficiency perspective, Dune, it's
to take a page from is it Michael Dell with Dell Computers? They build on demand. You configure your system, and So question, my friend, is a random question. I look and I see M.Ed there, so Masters in Education. So here's a question that might surprise you. I'm thinking, you did the Masters in Education. Tell us what got you into that, and what was one thing that you learned out of that is applicable to your future careers beyond that, or in fact maybe insights for our viewers. So when you take a Masters in Education, tell us about that.
Well, that master's wasn't actually in education. It is an MED, but the program itself was called Masters in Adult Learning and Global Change. A big long name, I guess, to justify the fees. Maybe what attracted me. I was living in Vancouver at the time, and what attracted me was the fact that it was a new program that was working in conjunction. It was through UBC, through the University of British Columbia, where I took it. But the program itself was administered and had students from 3 other universities that cooperated with UBC, all equally. So 25, 25, 25, 25.
Yeah.
And the other 3 universities were the UTS, which was the University of Technology of Sydney in Australia, the University of Linköping in Sweden, and the University of the Western Cape in South Africa. And my thinking was, if I can develop my programs in a way that takes into consideration the international cultural realities of these disparate geographies, and if I could forge relationships with people through the program that I otherwise would not have a chance to do unless I don't know, did commercial marketing privately, that's what really drew it to me. And the professors of the program were people who weren't just these tenured professors. They were people who actually had run their own businesses, either in training and development, consulting, etc. So that's what drew me to it. I didn't want a purely theoretical academic experience. I wanted hands-on. Let me learn something theoretical, but then figure out how it can be applied back on the job. And so that was the excitement. And 2.5, 3 years later, I got a chance to go to Linköping, got a chance to spend 10 days in South Africa. And by the way, as an aside, when I was in South Africa, I got introduced to the husband of one of our students there, who was an Anglican minister, an Anglican priest, who got me into I don't want to use a derogatory term because the term is, there's very different terms used, but into the shanty towns, into these areas that are, and you've seen them in various countries, that are just these rundown shacks with a tin roof on the top, no running water and all of that. I ended up staying there an extra week so that I could shoot, and I had my little handy cam with me. I shot 10 hours of video footage that I turned into a kind of unofficial documentary about how those lives are led. And the program became secondary, and I just every day went back there and met these people. And that's a story for another Dune and Friends conversation. But the point is that you just don't know what avenues these kinds of things will take you down. But that's why I got into that particular master's program, was the international flavor of it. And that I love. And those relationships are still alive today, which is great.
Nice. Now I have something here that I'm going to bring to the screen, and it's not directly related to what you just spoke of, but it's just a video that I want you to tell us a little bit about and bring some insights into it here, my friend. I'm going to bring up this surprise of a video here. Going to bring it in, and let's kind of look at this here. And can you see?
Do you do this to all your guests?
I'm not sure.
Your producers did not warn me. Oh my goodness.
Okay, you see this little title here on the bottom, right?
Yeah, this is this is another TV. Yes.
So tell us about this. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a TV series that was the #1 TV show in Saudi Arabia, and it may still be. It translates as gossip. It's an evening half-hour show that they run, and it's in Arabic, and I don't understand any of it. But they came to Montreal and shot an entire season here, and I was asked to play a role of a North American. It's about the clash of cultures and how people from that particular part of the world with very, very conservative values run up against very liberal values. And so, yeah.
Tell us, did you know where you appear in this video roughly, my friend?
Oh, it's a ways in. Well, actually, it's not too far in. There's a funeral scene right there. I'm here. If you go with that,
okay,
you'll find me. If you go bigger, so they end up bringing a sheep to my son as compensation, and it's very, very funny, but it's horrific under the surface. So that guy that you saw before, he is the #1 paid superstar actor in Saudi Arabia. He's extremely popular. He does a lot of shows. He's paid millions of dollars a year to do what he does, and he's in every episode. I got to do a couple of scenes with him. So yes, the language barrier, the divide was huge, but again, an opportunity to get to know another culture and to see the world from their perspective. And that was the biggest eye opener for me was, holy smokes, does that culture truly have a value system that is that different from our own? And the answer is yes. So that explains it. So that was another foray into performing.
Yeah.
That, on the one hand, a lot of fun, but on the other hand, very, very disconcerting.
Yeah. Eye-opening and
Yeah.
So if you ever go to that part of the world, my friend, you might be called out in the street and say, "Hey, you! I remember you from the other show." Joseph.
I got my name in Arabic in the titles, which was nice. So.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's what that's about. So we did a few episodes of that, and
in other words, they brought you back again and again, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they shoot this stuff back to back, but it was a very, very, very different.
Well, let's switch it up a little bit, my friend. You were on a game show. Tell us the match game. I have no idea what this video is about, but I'm going to bring it in.
Oh my God, Dune! I have to.
You all of a sudden you have a client meeting, do you?
Oh my goodness! Oh wow, you are going back in time.
Yeah.
That's what, 8 years ago. Wow. Yes, I was recruited to be a contestant on the newly relaunched Match Game, which was a very popular game show that ran in the States for years and years, and they created a Canadian version of it. And it was shot in, was that here or in Toronto? It may have been Montreal. It was either Montreal or Toronto, So they went through interviewed all these candidates to be contestants. For some reason, I got selected. And on this episode, it was really cool because they always have celebrities that sit in the, that's, as you'll see if you roll the tape there.
One of our viewers, Michelle. Hey, Michelle. Michelle chimed in and answered your question. She says, yes, he does this to everyone.
Thank you. I feel better, Michelle. Thank you for that.
Hey, Michelle. How are you doing today, my friend? So I'm going to roll.
What was cool about this particular episode of the show, Dune, was the fact that one of the guest stars, because they would have, I think it's six celebrity type people that play with the two contestants. On this one of my favorite comedians was the guest celebrity, and it was Janine Garofalo, who you may know. And she was instrumental in breaking a tie that allowed me to go to the final round in this thing.
Cool.
So I don't know if you can roll any of that I don't know if the video quality is that great, because I think this was shot off of on 1/4 inch or something. But oh boy, that brings back memories. And in the final round, to win the jackpot, I had to I had to partner with, there's Janine Garofalo. Sean Cullen, who is a very, very well-known Canadian comedian actor, who will show up in 2 seconds right after her. There's Sean Cullen. We won't watch the whole episode, but at the end where they spin the wheel and you have to, it's a match game, right? Where you have to fill in a blank, you say a word and then you have to figure out what the matching word is. And
so tell me.
I chose the word. I think the blank was ballroom blank. And
Blitz.
Yeah, I was thinking Ballroom Blitz because I was a big fan of Sweet, the group, the rock group Sweet, right? Who did Fox on the Run and Ballroom Blitz and all that. So that was the first word that came to mind was Blitz, but I didn't think Sean would come up with that. So I did ballroom dancing. And I don't know if you can fast forward through. Are you able to do that on your end?
Absolutely. How far would you like
if
to
you
go?
Almost there. There's me. There's everybody.
There you are. You were at 0, my friend. I don't know how far you are, but she's also at 0.
I don't think the game has begun yet officially.
Let me know how far you want me to go.
Yeah, no, you're gonna. Well, unless you want to watch the show, keep going all the way. Not all the way, but keep going. I'll tell you where to stop.
Okay.
You want to have some fun with it?
Yeah.
Okay, because we ended up tying, which doesn't happen that often. And we're almost there. We're almost there. Here we go. Keep going. She'll be at 450, and then it's my turn. So if you want to, you can play. If you want to, if you have a few seconds, you can play this.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to match with Janine Garofalo here. I don't know if there's volume.
That's maximum volume on this thing for some reason.
Okay. So we match, we don't match, and there's like very little time on the clock, and I believe I tie it here. So you can go a little further forward, and we'll get to the tiebreaker. Keep going, and there we are. Everybody's surprised. Tiebreaker, tiebreaker. Keep going. There it is. And here, she's here, freeze it there, if you can. My friend Karen, who's on my right there, she goes first. She says Burning Man. I say Handy Man, and it's up to Janine Garofalo to choose which of those three. So go for it. And I win.
There you go.
And I get to hug Janine Garofalo.
There you go. You're touched.
And then if you go fast forward to the end.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sure everybody's just riveted with this.
Yeah. This is fun, man.
We go through a few. You can go faster. You can go towards the end. And we'll get to the very final round where it is. I get Sean. And here it is. You can play this. Ballroom. And I have to look really surprised. He writes down his answer. I don't know what he's writing. Don't you love the play-by-play?
Yes, you could have another career.
So I'm at $4,000. I have the potential to win $4,000 here. So I guess it can't be heard, but I think, and I say dancing. And he's not going to choose dancing. Look, his head's on the table, and he says, why do bad things happen to good people? And he puts up his card, and it says, dancing.
There you go. Cut from the same cloth.
There you go. So we had a lot of fun with that. It was really unexpected. And hey, all I can say is if a game show comes through town and you want to be a contestant, go for it. It's a lot of fun.
So I'm going to stretch a bit. So beyond the fun, my friend, was there one surprise or one thing that you learned from that whole experience of being on an American game show and live TV and all that stuff?
Another great question, dude. I think a couple of quick things I could share with you. Number one, the humanity of the celebrities. And I know they're not necessarily all everyday names, but those are all pretty well-known people in Canada. Just the basic humanity and giving nature of those people, because before the show we got a chance to know them, and then after the camera stopped, there's about an hour before they shoot the next episode. So I just hung out there for a little while, and they all came up to me and they stood in a circle. Hey, what do you do? Oh yeah, tell me more. Genuine interest. And then Janine Garofalo took a card, like those cards that they write on with their answers. She took a card like that, and she said, and I still have it somewhere here. She said, a real pleasure getting to know you. And then she brought it to all her fellow celebrities, and they all signed it with my name on it. And I was almost in tears, because things like that I get really emotional. So the humanity of the folks was really something. The second thing was the lady that I was playing against, Karen, who I got to know in the green room beforehand. She really should have won. She chose that answer, Burning Man, which really was, of the three choices, the one that probably nobody would have selected, just based on common usage. So as soon as she chose it, I knew I had a chance to win, and I felt really bad. And she knew as soon as she selected that she probably wasn't going to win the tiebreaker. I felt bad for her. When I got home, I sent her a note and said it was a real pleasure meeting you and all that. When I got the check, because they sent me a check for $4,500 for my winnings, tax-free, which is nice, I cut a check for $500 and I mailed it to her. And I said, would love to have seen you in the winner's circle. You were an amazing person to have watched and get to know, and a little compensation for the great effort you put in. And she wrote me back. She sent me a video clip that she shot on her, not on her phone, but on her like a handy cam. And she was like in tears, just saying nobody has ever done anything like that and all that. So again, just the really small little things that make up humanity are the things I took away from a big, production show like that. It's
Yeah.
so I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I took away.
Absolutely. And remind us, in the roles that we're in, to be mindful of the positive impact we can have on somebody's life on some very sort of small gestures and actions and whatnot, right? And I see Michelle chimed in again here. She says she's doing well, and hope we're both doing well. And she's going to watch at the beginning when she's done with her thing there later on this evening. And she also said, Robin Dune. Now, this is another Dune with two N's. So Robin Dune is there too. You recall him there? But anyway, Michelle.
Oh, yes, sure. yes. The good catch. Yes.
Yeah, and again, nice gestures. Again, the idea is we never know how somebody's gonna kind of be impacted by our actions, and so if we can make sure our actions are kind and generous as much as possible. And in her case, it didn't cost her much of anything. It just costed some thoughtfulness and the time to kind of just quickly do that, right?
And it's a game show, and if you look at it, what are the game, not to be too philosophical about it, but what are the game shows in our lives that we play every day? What are those little things that we do that have both positive and negative impacts? I mean, I have kids, they're getting a little bit older, but they're still at an age, especially my son, who is, highly sensitive to feedback, to the little things that are done and how they're said. And, you're right. The little gestures make a huge difference, and being willing to apologize if you're made aware that something you said or did rubbed somebody the wrong way, get on the phone, and
you bet.
So yeah.
I have a few target videos to share with our viewers. Our viewers are probably thinking, what the heck is a target?
Everybody's going to think that I don't work for a living and that all I do is
Yeah.
You know what? Your show lends itself really well to this.
Yeah.
So, this is from the target. Yes. Okay. This is where I first meet the guy I'm going to try and recruit to move the Ahmed El Bayad fellow that you saw in the picture with me. I think he's in this quick scene.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
Sure. I'll shut up. If there's sound up. No. So I don't know if you can hear me, but this is where I'm trying to recruit him and pay him $100 million to transport containers of toxic waste from New York to Saudi Arabia. And that guy on my right runs a waste management company that cannot fulfill a government contract. So we're turning to this guy to fill in the blanks. But he has a moral compass that will not allow him to do what I'm asking him to do. So it will necessitate me having to have his wife kidnapped later on. You can cut it there.
I just got a message here from Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, that says she can't hear it, unfortunately. So
yeah, I'm not hearing it either.
Oh, well, sorry about that. Let me just redo it here, my friend. So you know what? This is the humanity of live stuff. So let me do that again.
Oh, you don't. You play a different clip if you want.
Gentlemen,
There he is. The man who's going to make us all rich.
how are you? Hey, how are you?
Would you like a drink?
Coffee, please.
I'd like you to meet James. James represents AT Waste Management, and they have a major problem, a $200 million problem, and they'd like us to solve it. James, why don't you tell Omar about your problem?
Our company specializes in toxic waste management. 3 years ago, we started development of a new technology which is supposed to double our capacity to treat waste. Well, long story short, we ran into some problems.
So you're stuck with a lot of garbage.
How toxic is your stuff?
Well, it's not as toxic as they make it sound to be. In 1 or 2 years, the disposal of the waste will no longer be an issue. Our problem is that we've signed a contract with the government to treat all of the waste produced this year, and we simply can't.
And how are you planning on doing that?
Thank you, James. You can leave us now. Listen, Omar. These guys just need a place to store this stuff for a couple of years. They already have somebody in Saudi Arabia who's willing to store it, but we need you to use your people to bring it into the country. First shipment, 50 containers, 200 million. 100 million for us, 100 million for the guy in Saudi Arabia.
I don't know, guys. See, taking things out of Saudi Arabia is one thing, but sending them in, that's another story.
What do you mean you don't know? We have to act quickly. If we don't, they'll find somebody else. Heck, they'll freaking send it to Africa.
Give me a couple of days. I'll let you know.
Listen, Omar, I am not gonna let this opportunity pass out. If you're not gonna do it, let me know now. You and I both know that there's a lot of people that could be bought.
I'll let you know. Thanks for the coffee.
Yeah, you can cut it there.
Our guys in Saudi Arabia said that Omar would never.
A bit of a, what is it, Canadian Godfather?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting with this production is that it's shot half in Arabic, half in English. So all of the Arabic-speaking actors we recorded the scenes, every scene twice. We recorded it once in English and once in Arabic. The Saudi actors who do not speak English were subtitled, and the English actors, like myself, who don't speak Arabic, were subtitled in Arabic. So the final pilot episode has subtitles in 2 different languages.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah. I'm going to play one more clip here, my friend, and then we're going to chat for a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up. But we have scene number 2, 3, 4, and 5. You roll a random dice and tell me which one to play there, my friend.
oh boy, can I see the thumbnails or no?
You bet. You can see the thumbnail. We have the technology for that. So,
I know. My daughter gets really upset with me when I talk to her about the excess weight that I'm carrying, and it's a very sensitive issue for many people. But I see those clips, and I see myself now, and I realize COVID has really done a number on my. Let's see. You could do. Well, one of the chairs. No, let's not do that. Yeah, you know what? Do number 3.
number 3.
Yeah, right there.
Number.
That one's in motion. That was
3 is a powerful number. Now, give me a second to get that kind of all prepped here, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the sound's coming through.
Hello.
I'll do it.
Hello.
I'll do it.
You know, there was no need for any of that, huh?
It's too late for that now. If I'm doing this, we're splitting Robert's money. I want half my share now, and this is not negotiable.
It shouldn't be a problem. After all, you're the one that crippled him. But to get you all that money up front, you should sit down and talk.
There's nothing to talk about. Besides, I'm really not in the mood to see you, Silvio. Do you want to do this or not?
Not gonna be so easy.
Well, that's what I want. I want half my share now, and the other half once the ship is unloaded.
Okay, I'll arrange it.
What about my wife?
Now, don't you think you're asking a little bit too much? You get her with the second payment.
I need to talk to her. I need to know she's okay.
I'll call you tomorrow. We'll set it up.
And there you have it.
Cool.
So I see Michelle's comment. Yeah, that was that role was like a mafia boss, a real heavy, a real bad guy. I seem to get cast as a bad guy a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, let me just recap here. Actually, before acting, before theater, did you have a career before theaters, my friend?
Oh, yeah, I worked in restaurants. No, I'm just kidding. I did. The very first thing I did after, like, when I stopped working for a paycheck, like when I stopped working a regular normal job, and went out on my own, which was in 1998, everything started being started off much more corporate. It was working with organizations, doing training and development, workshop type things on site. And a lot of those contracts would go over 3-6 months in length. It was only after I moved back to Montreal from Vancouver that an agent friend of mine approached me and said, your age group, your look, your feel, all this stuff is something we don't have a lot of. We have tons of the 18 to 24-year-old girls and boys of all looks and shapes and sizes to draw. And she said, but in the 35, 40 to let's say 60 range, they were really limited. So that opened up a lot of opportunities. And so that's when time allowed in between training contracts or consulting work, that's when I would throw this stuff in. And the film and television stuff is a lot easier to work into the schedule than theater stuff. And that's why I've only been able to do, I think, 2 plays in all that time, because with plays, you need to block off 6, sometimes 8 weeks of rehearsal time, because there's no second takes on stage. The curtain goes up. If you mess up your line, if you forget a line, nothing, they don't say, just a minute, put the curtain back down and start over again. Whereas in film or TV work, if you mess up, it's not good, but they'll just go cut, and most of it's done on digitals, memory cards. It's not shot on film anymore. So the production cost for them it's just time. So you can go in for a day of shooting, just learn the lines for those scenes. That's it. Do the shots and you're out.
Nice.
With theater, you can't do that. You've got to learn the whole play or all your lines for a 2-hour piece. And so that's why theater pieces, I just can't work into the schedule. But if I get a call or an email, like I did last week, I got a call last week, an email from this agent friend of mine here in Montreal, who had a client doing a water treatment commercial. And so I sent in a taped audition, and we'll see if that goes through or not. So
cool. Hey, I'm going to return back to the COVID times conversation here. So as we are still in COVID times, what are some, tell us about what you're up to right now, like this afternoon, tomorrow. What kind of projects are you working on, my friend?
Well, with respect to COVID, I mean, right at the end of March, everything that was on the table, that was in progress, and everything that was in the pipeline stopped. I mean, like everybody else, it just stopped. And because the nature of my work is, you're paid on contract, you're paid as you submit invoices based on the work you're doing, and you're not doing that work. So the financial hit, again, like virtually everyone else in the business, is huge, is very, very significant. And it's not like you get dates about when it'll resume, because those dates are usually not known. Now, a lot of the work that I do can be done remotely or virtually, but a lot of it cannot be done. The bulk of my consulting work is done on site, because it involves working with people to try and trigger behavioral changes with the people they're working with in the environments they're working in, which cannot be done as easily virtually. So right now, the focus is on nurturing the relationships that were in place prior to keep them alive, keep them well, and try to work out arrangements where the pieces that can be done virtually are done. And secondly, going through the RFP process, which again in the consulting world is a very common thing we do, which is to continuously get proposals into the pipeline. And the other thing I've done is work very diligently on the home studio, a little bit of what you're seeing here, for example, where I can do the live stuff sitting or standing, where I can pre-record and edit content and get it out there. So to answer part of your question, a lot of what I'm doing right now, Dune, is I don't want to say perfecting, but continuing to work on the technology side of being able to deliver, not just virtually, but deliver virtually in several different modalities across several different platforms. And really, really close to doing that. And then I can begin marketing the services much more proactively, because it'll be in place. It won't be, well, 3 months from now, I'll be able to do that. I can actually do it. I can shoot demos here and say, this is a little bit like we were talking about Jason Hewitt earlier, about his setup. I'm not going to do a video like he did, but I'll be able to do a video a little bit like that, where I can move around and say, here's what we can do. Here's how we can accommodate you. Here's how we can bring other people in, like you're doing here, Dune, with this conversation, et cetera, how we can film it, how we can get it back out there. So that's what's filling the time right now.
Yeah. Hey, dare I bring up the word pivot?
Pivot away.
Pivot away.
Yeah. Well, what choice do we have? I mean, what choice do we have if you're not working a normal job, whatever that is?
Yeah. In respect to consulting, that you mentioned how RFP responses and whatnot, I have flashback of that, because I don't know if you know, but at one time I actually had 12 management consultants as employees in my company that I own and operate, so been there, done that, and don't miss the RFP process at all.
No, you can spend 2 weeks full time or more putting
not get anything,
and then there's 15 other people, and you're lucky to hear back sometimes. But that's you go in with your eyes open, obviously. But
it's the game. It's a game. If you're going to be in that field, you got to play that game, I suppose.
Well, that's it, because it just takes one. You just need one or two of those to come through, and you can have work for 2 years just based on one of those coming through. So
it's a different kind of arrangement than the smaller gigs of a presentation here, a gig there. It really is a long-term engagement, medium term anyway. Yeah. So tell us, my friend, when I reach out and say, hey, Lorne, we like to talk with you for a bit, was there an area that you wanted to chat about that we haven't gotten to, my friend?
Well, you covered some bases I wasn't expecting to go. Like, a lot of the, melding your passions melding fantasy with reality is what I call it. I'm always struggling to make sure that the reality piece, which means tangible work with tangible results and money and that kind of stuff to stay afloat, is met. But I find that as each year goes by, I'm more willing to take more risks, and it's usually the other way around. Usually the risk taking takes place earlier in one's life or career, and then you kind of mellow a little bit, and then and I've got that model kind of flipped around a little bit. Everything was really serious and nose to the grindstone and no risks, and putting the passionate stuff aside for so long that in the last, let's say, 10 years or so, I've been putting the fishing rod out and trying to reel in the passion pieces, the performing arts pieces, and trying to find a way to marry them, but marry them in a way that you can actually make a living at, because otherwise you could just go into community theater or do stuff on the side just for fun if it's a hobby. And that's the difference. I've never wanted the performance piece to be a hobby. I wanted it to be something a little bit more meaty. So I'm still, I won't say struggling with that. I know how to do it and what to do, but I still have to let go of some of the practical considerations that that stand in the way sometimes.
Yeah. You know,
Uh,
I would say that one way to look at it is that during COVID time here, you might have opportunities that otherwise would not be available to you, my friend, to reach a global audience quickly and so on. You know, some of the stuff you've done with the episodes there, the series for TV and for whatever have you, sort of kind of say, how can you do that in this thing that you're working on, that, you know, bringing theater and keynoting and training and development into everything sort of into one offering. And I'm thinking that once you, as you mentioned, sort of gotten enough technology and process down pat there, you might be all of a sudden surprised how you might be able to bring that globally quicker than, you know, if it was non-COVID time.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I think you're right. And some of the things that I have experimented with, including the stuff you started with way back a couple of hours ago almost, you know, there is so much opportunity to do hardcore, meaty, relevant content pieces, but envelop it in an entertainment envelope.
Yeah.
Which I would not be alone in doing, but it's still a minority, in my opinion, from what I've seen. It's still a minority of people whose presentations do that kind of enveloping. So yes, I agree that that is a wide open door, and I think I'm well placed to tackle it. And that'll be the focus: how to blend those two things together, get it out there, and have people say, well, since the virtual is here to stay, even when things return to some kind of semi-normal, people have latched onto the virtual in such a way that it will, I don't believe, ever be let go. Too many organizations are seeing that it can work, that it can be stable, that it can be secure, and that even though I can't touch Dune and I can't hug Dune the way I want to, okay, I'll do that one day. But it doesn't preclude me from sharing content that he can put to use. So why not envelop that in something that takes it to the next level with, and I'll use the word entertainment for lack of a better word, or what's that overused word they used to say, edutainment, you know? Whatever. So yes, that is the focus going forward, is to master the pieces we've got in place and then do this hybrid stuff online.
You bet.
And have people hopefully take notice.
So one day we'll hear about Lorne Kelton's overnight success when it comes to this new format, this new concept, this new modal kind of fusion. And then he'll say, but I've been working on that for months and months and months. That's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be, my friend. You keep on working on that, and one day the world will know what it is that you've been working on.
And I'll be able to say it all started on Dune and Friends.
As we wrap this up, my friend, I'm going to hand it to you. Take us home however you like. You can do a soliloquy if you like. You can do a monologue. You can sing a song for us. You can do anything. You can do act 3 of one of your plays if you like. You can be that boss guy who is not very nice. Feel free to take us out however you like, my friend. And thank you so much for your time on this hour and a bit, 2 hours now. But
thanks for having me, doing it. I haven't seen you in person in a while, and it's I've always enjoyed your company on the occasions we've met at conferences. And you're a straight arrow. You're a wonderful human being with so much humanity. And I'm not blowing smoke. I feel like there's I don't want to say an emotional connection. I don't know you well enough to go too deep in the weeds on that, but I do know that what you see is what you get with you, and that's why it's always a pleasure that's why this is a pleasure for me, because you're so authentic.
Thank you.
In terms of heading out, how about I put you on the spot, and I will recite the first few lines of a famous poem, and your job will be to tell me the author and the poem.
Oh, you know, I'm not that educated when it comes to poetic stuff.
Okay, it goes like this. Once upon a midnight dreary, as I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, suddenly I sat there napping, and there came a gentle tapping, and there was a sudden rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, rapping at my chamber door. "This it is, and nothing more." I can keep going. That is maybe, you know what? Maybe Michelle.
Do you see how uncultured I am when it comes to poems? I'm good with music, but poems.
No, that is one stanza from an 18 stanza story by the great American novelist Edgar Allan Poe, and the poem is "The Raven," which I know you know. You may not know the words, but I know you know the poem. That I had to memorize back in high school, and to this day, here's a little anecdote. The last play that I worked on, the last live play that I worked on, we were at intermission. I was backstage, pacing back and forth as I always do, nervous energy, getting ready for the second act. And I started reciting that poem, Once Upon a Midnight, and I'm reciting it. And as I'm into about the third stanza, I hear in the distance, in the backstage, a woman picking up where I left off, saying it out loud as well, until we came together and we were on the same stanza and we finished the whole thing. And I went over to see who it was. It was one of my co-performers in that play who also had a love affair with Edgar Allan Poe, and we finished each other's sentences. So, hey, there you go. That's what I'm going to end with.
Did Michelle get it right, my friend? Michelle chiming in before you revealed it.
Oh, Midsummer. Well, very close. It has that kind of narrative flow to it as Midsummer Night's Dream, but it was The Raven. Yes, I'm way off. So I think I said it in a way that would sound like Midsummer Night's Dream, but there you go. And by the way, Edgar Allan Poe was the father, the founding father of the detective thriller genre.
Cool.
In the 1840s. So thank you, dude. Thank you for all your patience, and I hope we'll see each other again soon.
You bet. You bet. I'm gonna drag you into one more thing, my friend. This is so much fun. Tell us 3 words that you want our viewers to remember as they think about Mr. Lorne Kelton, all of the diverse things that he's been up to and whatnot. What are 3 words that you think people should be, kind of have top of mind as they think about this conversation, my friend?
Radical performance strategies.
Let me capture that here, and we're going to end on that note here. Say that again. I'm going to type it here.
I'm thinking radical
performance
strategies. If you said a 4th word, I would add provocative, but
oh wow, you know what? We can go provocative.
It's probably just a personal bias, but I think that's another thing that's lacking. I don't mean being rude, and I don't mean being insensitive kind of provocative. I just mean jolting people a little bit in their chair so they can go, Because with all the misinformation and all the political stuff out there, which we're not going to talk about, I think provocation might be a good thing. So.
Yeah, well, fantastic, Lorne. You have provoked me into thinking of more ways to bring music into my my work with speaking and training. So you have I have now been provoked, my friend, and he's going to take us out with a "Sweet Child of Mine" solo, or Beat It, or anything like that.
I'll plug it in next time, okay?
Okay, yeah.
We'll play together, buddy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Friends, have yourself a wonderful day. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of one another. You have been listening to Mr. Lorne Kelton. Now, are you in Vancouver these days, or are you back in Quebec, my friend?
I am in the beautiful city of Montreal, Quebec.
Montreal. From Montreal. I don't know how to say it properly. Montreal. And actually, just a final word from our fan here, a viewer, a wonderful supporter, Michelle. She said, love the words. As always, she enjoyed this conversation. And so did I, my friend. Thank you so much, Lon.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, dude. All the best.
Yeah, thanks.